Law Watch, Coleman Jackson, attorney and counselor at law. Welcome to Law Watch. My name is Coleman Jackson, and I am an attorney at Coleman Jackson, PC, a taxation, litigation, and immigration law firm based in Dallas, Texas. Our topic for today is green cards and work permits in the days of this pandemic. How are they impacted by this national emergency? Other members of Coleman Jackson PC are Yulissa Molina, tax legal assistant, Reina Munoz, immigration legal assistant, and Myra Torres, public relations associate. On this Law Watch video, our law firm's immigration legal assistant, Reina Munoz, will be asking the questions, and I will be giving the answers as she and I will be discussing green cards and work permits and how they are impacted by this national emergency.
Hi everyone, I'm Reina. I'm a immigration legal assistant at litigation and immigration law firm of Coleman Jackson PC, right here in Dallas, Texas. Wow, this coronavirus pandemic has been so long. It's got people overthinking and worrying about a lot of things. Attorney, what some immigrants are wondering is green cards and work permits in the days of the pandemic. How have green cards and work permits for immigrants living and working in the U.S. been impacted by this national emergency?
Well, we will get through this pandemic one step at a time, one day at a time. That is what we need to focus on and simply work with one another and listen to scientific experts. Act on what doctors and scientists say one day at a time. Now, why don't we take that same step-by-step approach while explaining immigration law as it pertains to green cards and work permits? So, Reina, please ask one question at a time, and we will do our best to provide accurate and clear information that will help immigrants and their families as far as their concerns relate to green cards and work permits during this coronavirus pandemic.
That step-by-step approach sounds like a good way to climb this mountain too. The first step is this. What is a green card anyway?
Number one, a permanent resident of the United States is called by many terms, but all of those terms mean the exact same thing. Permanent residents are called, number one, lawful permanent resident, or LPR. Number two, permanent resident. Or number three, green card holder. Again, all these terms mean exactly the same thing. A green card represents the status of someone who has adjusted their status in the United States to lawful permanent resident. And it also is the status of someone who has obtained their permanent resident card or permanent resident visa at the U.S. Consulate's office.
Thank you for clearing that a green card simply refers to someone who has become a lawful permanent resident of the United States, either by adjusting their status inside the United States, applying for and being approved for permanent resident status at the U.S. Consulate's office. The second step is, how long does a green card last? I mean, do green cards expire?
Number one, green cards are issued for 10 years and can be renewed indefinitely. Number two, green cards based on marriage are granted on a 2-year conditional basis. An application for removal of this condition can be filed at the end of that 2-year period. If granted, the green card will be issued for 10 years and can be renewed indefinitely. Number three, I should add that green cards can be revoked by the Attorney General of the United States. They can be revoked by the immigration court judges. They can be revoked by USCIS, and they can be abandoned by the immigrant.
Step three is this, and it's a big step. How does an immigrant who wants to become a permanent resident of the United States get a green card?
That is a big step indeed, Reina. There are essentially 3 broad categories or paths an immigrant can take to get a green card. Number one, family petition process, I-130 and I-485. If the immigrant is in the United States and has a lawful status that can be adjusted. or I-30 and the consulate processing if the immigrant is outside the United States or if the United States but has no status to adjust. They must go through consulate processing. Business petition process. I-120 and the I-485 if inside the United States, or I-120 and the consulate processing if the immigrant is outside the United States, or number 3, self-petition process. For example, the I-360 and the I-485 are filed for a VAWA victim. Each of these categories have many intricacies, and we have discussed them in detail in blogs, videocasts, and we intend to discuss them in a future podcast. Interested listeners should follow our podcast and visit our law firm's main website at www.cjacksonlaw.com. We generally discuss detailed legal analysis and complex legal issues in our blogs and use our podcast to discuss general legal principles or ideas in outline form. Our blogs get into the weeds on these issues.
Step 4 is this one, and this one is about working in the U.S. What is a work visa, and is it different from the work authorization and green card? I mean, are these the same too? Are they just different terms for the same thing? Like the terms green card and lawful permanent resident mean the same thing?
First of all, a work permit and a green card is not the same thing. An immigrant who has been issued a work permit by the Department of Homeland Security has the authority to work in the United States. Work authorization is not evidence of lawful status, however. An immigrant can be authorized to work in the United States even if they have no status. For example, immigrants who have been paroled in the United States has no status. Another example of this is the DACA recipients. They have no status, but they have authority to work in the United States. Number 3, work permit and work authorization means the same thing. These are just different terms that are used in immigration law to mean exactly the same thing. Work permit and work authorization are the same. Number 4, immigrants who are authorized to work in the U.S. can apply for a Social Security card, and in most states, they can obtain a driver's license. This is all I am going to say about work permits for now. We plan to cover work authorizations in much more detail in another podcast in the near future, such as what are the various ways an immigrant can attain a work permit, eligibility requirements, duration of work permits, and like details.
Well, okay, then we can cover the details of work permits at some other time, like in another podcast coming soon. But one more thing about green cards before we go. Step 5 is, what are some of the main advantages of becoming a permanent resident of the United States anyway?
This is a very excellent question, Raina. So the main advantages of becoming a green card holder of lawful permanent resident of the U.S. are, number 1, permanent residents have more stability and certainty in the United States because they can lawfully live and work in the United States. Number 2, they can apply for the United States citizenship. And upon taking the oath of citizenship, they can vote in elections, hold public office, and build strong, stable families and lives and become firm members of their communities. Number 3, permanent residents can live and work permanently in the U.S. without any restrictions. Number 4, permanent residents can travel freely inside and outside of the United States. Number 5, permanent residents can reunite their families by petitioning for parents, children, and siblings who are outside of the United States. Raina, thanks for asking some very important questions regarding green cards. This is a very complex area of immigration law, and we have only touched the surface. Anyone wanting to know more about this area of immigration law should listen to and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever they listen to their podcasts, or watch more Law Watch videos like this one right here on our law firm's YouTube channel. As for the impact of COVID-19 on filing and approval of green cards and work permits, the government continues to accept and process green cards and petitions and applications for work permits. The pandemic has increased processing times, but that can be expected in the midst of a national emergency. Patience is required of all of us at this time. This is the end of Law Watch for now. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to inform you about the green card and work permit during this coronavirus pandemic. We plan to discuss work permits in more detail in a follow-up Legal Thoughts podcast or another Law Watch video in the very near future. If you want to see or hear more taxation, litigation, and immigration, Legal Thoughts, or Law Watch videos from Coleman Jackson PC, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Or subscribe and watch our Law Watch videos right here on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned. We are here in Dallas, Texas, and want to inform, educate, and encourage our communities on topics dealing with taxation, litigation, and immigration. Until next time, take care. Law Watch has been a presentation of the tax, litigation, immigration law firm of Coleman Jackson PC, 6060 North Central Expressway, Suite 620, Dallas, Texas, 75206. 214-599-0431, Spanish 214-599-0432. Website www.cjacksonlaw.com.
Viendo Leyes ha sido una presentación por la firma de abogados Coleman Jackson PC, impuestos, litigación, inmigración, basada en Dallas, Texas. Estamos localizados en el 6060 North Central Expressway, Suite 620, Dallas, Texas 75206. Nuestro número en inglés es 214-599-0431. Nuestro número en español es 214-599-0432. Y nuestra página web es www.cjacksonlaw.com.